If you want more content like this, check out that video right over there. Remember to leave a comment down below. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies too much.
Chandler.
Hello everybody, Film Trigger here. My name is Stevie Cade, and we are continuing our Terminator reviews, where I drop a new Terminator review every week, leading to the release of the new Terminator movie, Dark Fate. Now, I'm not doing this alone. I am doing this with fellow YouTuber and friend, Christopher Durbin, over at DURBANIA, and he's dropping his video at the same time as I am. So as soon as you're done watching my review, you can actually go check out his review, and I'll leave the link to his review in the description below. So without further ado, here is my review for Terminator 2. Directed by James Cameron, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, Linda Hamilton, Edward Furlong, and Robert Patrick. And this is a story that that's a cyborg, which is identical to the one from the first film, played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, is sent back by an adult John Connor to protect his younger self from a more advanced and more powerful Terminator, the T-1000, which is played by Robert Patrick. So this movie starts out in a very similar post-apocalyptic feel that the original film had, except with a big budget makeover, and fully operational animatronic Terminators. And here we are introduced to John Connor, and the only adult actor to ever play him that hasn't been completely scrutinized. And then we are also introduced to the two Terminators that have been sent back to the 90s. So we're just ignoring that they destroyed the time machines in the first movie? Yeah, we're just gonna ignore that. And then we join the T-800 in his quest for some new threads, so he can fit in and not draw attention to himself. Well, there goes that idea. Pull it out! That's what she said. And there's two things I want to point out in this scene. Number one, that is not a match for Arnold Schwarzenegger. And number two, the Rodney King beating that happened back in the 90s, that started a whole riot, yeah, that's happening right outside, right across the street during this scene. Not making light of it, but it's definitely an interesting fact. And after the biker bar brawl, the Terminator that we know and love is back. And meanwhile, the new and more advanced T-1000, which had Billy Idol originally cast until an unfortunate motorcycle accident, is also looking to suit up. Now, the T-1000 was actually supposed to be in the original 1984 film, but Cameron kind of felt that the practical effects of the time just wouldn't cut it, and he was ultimately written out of the script. And the T-1000 stealthily takes the identity of a police officer to assure minimal problems as he's searching for John Connor and not to bring attention to himself, like he's supposed to. I can already tell he's more advanced. The T-800, you're just an ape. Now we meet the teenage angst rebel tween John Connor.
Do what your mother tells you.
She's not my mother, Todd.
played by Edward Furlong. And here we also get some exposition as to who, why, what, and where of John Connor and his mother Sarah.
That her? Oh, she's a complete psycho. That's why she's up at Pescadero. It's a mental institute, okay? She tried to blow up a computer factory, but she got shot and arrested. She's a total loser.
All caught up. And now we visit ready for battle, take no shit, Sarah Connor. And then we see Sarah Connor in a clip that mirrors one from the original.
You're the one living in a fucking dream, Zimmerman! Because I knew it happened! It happened!
Stop him! He'll wait for you, reach down her throat, and pull her fucking heart out! Doug! Let go of me!
And this movie is chock full of parallels and nods like this throughout the entire film. And they also bring back Earl Boen as the aloof Dr. Silberman.
Morning, Sarah.
Good morning, Dr. Silberman. How's the knee?
More on him later. And I'm also painfully aware that this guy...
Last call, sugar.
looks like this guy.
Well, that's a whole different topic, Rick.
And then we head over to Skynet, where we are introduced to Miles Dyson, played by Joe Morton, where we learn about the top secret research based on the highly advanced Terminator arm left from the first movie. And this research is what eventually creates Skynet to become self-aware and then make Terminators, which they send back to have its arm cut off so they can find it. Again, it's like the whole which came first, the chicken or the egg scenario, all over again. So after some minor detective work, the Terminators find John Connor at a shopping mall, where they meet up in the hallway for a big battle, which kind of mirrors the one from the original film at Tech Noir. And this is where we find out who's friend and who's foe.
Get down.
And here we are treated with our first real action sequence, and one of many chase scenes. Here the Terminator saves John Connor and they ride off into the sunset to live happily ever after. But for real though, the movie slows down for a bit where we get caught up with what the Terminator's mission actually is, why he's there to protect John Connor, how he got there, and that he has to listen to everything John Connor tells him to do.
You have to do what I say, huh?
That's one of my mission parameters.
Stand on one foot. Yes!
And we even get a bit of comedy,
Put your leg down.
which the third film just overdid. Yeah, we'll get to that in my next review. And from here, we go to save Sarah Connor. And even though it's risky, this kind of shows what John Connor has to offer as a leader. And we get to see his integrity of no man left behind here. Meanwhile, after learning of the Terminator's return, Sarah Connor escapes in one of the most satisfying scenes of the film. Trailer Park Dude gets what he deserves. A fantastically beautiful CGI shot. And Dr. Asshat learns that Sarah Connor was right the entire time. Which they completely negate in T3. Again, I'll get to that in my next review. But you know what? Since we're going to ignore T3 and the new continuity of these films, I would really like to see that Doctor return as more of a believer and somebody that actually helps Sarah Connor in some way, shape, or form. You know, like, I don't know. I feel like he could be redeemed, but we'll see. We'll see if they even bring him back. I mean, he's 73. He could still do it. He's still alive, right? Yeah, I think. So after Sarah Connor and the Terminator come face to face after almost 11 years, awkward. She quickly learns that he's there to help, and they escape in another action-packed chase scene. Later, we find our protagonists hiding and dressing their wounds. And here, again, we are shown more of what makes John Connor an excellent leader. He wants to reprogram the Terminator so he can learn to be more human-like. And from this point on, we really start to dive into everybody's character development. We learn just how serious Sarah Connor took raising the savior of humanity. I mean, this chick loaded up.
One thing about my mom, she always plans ahead.
And we also see her fight her own demons, especially when she goes to kill Miles. She is no better than a Terminator. Actually, that's essentially what she is. She has put herself into a Terminator role, but she ultimately realizes this and kind of pulls her back from the ledge. After she luckily didn't kill Miles. Yeah. But even the Terminator himself has a character development. We see him learning and looking at life with a curious mind.
Cops are going nuts looking for you.
We watch him and John Connor have this kind of yin and yang relationship where they seem to switch roles as a father figure to each other. The Terminator being the more protective and stay by your side father figure to John. And then John kind of being the teaching father figure to the Terminator, educating him about humanity and the ways of the world. It's actually quite beautiful. So after the oops, I almost murdered you moment, we get some more not so discreet exposition.
Dyson listened while the Terminator laid it all down. He took it pretty well.
I feel like I'm gonna throw up.
And now Miles is all caught up as we head into the third act, where it's time to change the future. So we head to Skynet, and destroy all of Miles' research on the remains of the previous Terminator. And we get to see Arnold do what he does best, blow shit up. And not kill people. But don't worry, the T-1000 has racked up a pretty good body count at this point. And then we are treated to our third and final action-packed chase scene of the movie. This time it's with a helicopter. That leads us to the steel mill and the final battle of good versus evil, which include one-liners that make no sense coming from a Terminator.
I need a vacation.
And we watch as they defeat the T-1000 and have their tear-jerking goodbyes to the Terminator that we have truly grown to know and love. As we watch them burn him slowly. So overall, this film does drastically change the tone from the original film's tech noir / horror genre. And they really ham up the action-packed summer blockbuster stuff. But there are some pretty good horror slashery moments freckled in throughout the movie. But this movie works. It not only adds to the mythology of the Terminator saga, but in my opinion, it's ultimately a conclusion. They stopped Judgment Day from happening. And that's where Dark Fate is going to pick up. What now? What happens now? I'm very curious what this movie holds. I mean, the only other story that we can really tell from this point on, if they truly stop Judgment Day without reneging on that, just saying, oh, well, somebody else picked up the research, is kind of what they tried to do with Terminator Salvation. Just kind of dive us into that world at the moment where they send Kyle Reese back. But again, they did that with Salvation, and we'll get to that review Tuesday after next. I do have some negatives. The one-liners from Terminator just seemed way too excessive. They really played that card a lot. The lack of effectiveness of the T-1000, I feel like he could have been utilized better considering what he was. There was just a lot of moments where he could have T-1000'd a situation better than how he T-1000'd it, if that makes sense. And the Terminators fighting each other like humans. I never understood this. They resort to punching each other and throwing each other through walls like monkeys, as opposed to highly advanced cyborgs from the future. It's kind of a big one for me. But other than those two minor negatives and that one really big stain on this movie was damn near perfect. I can watch this movie over and over again, and it gives you exactly what you expect from a movie like this. Big budget action sequences, CGI that was state of the art of its time and still hold pretty fair today. But it also gives you something that you didn't expect, like heart, a look at humanity, and the character growth of a Terminator. And for those reasons, I give this movie an A+.
That was wonderful. Bravo! I loved it. Oh, it was great.
So I'm sure you've seen this movie, and I'm sure a lot of you love it. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comments section below. And while you're there, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell ding thing so you get notified every time I upload a new video. Alright guys, well thank you. Oh God, what is that? That tickles. Oh, now it hurts. Oh, now it hurts. It hurts a lot.